Okay. Oh, let me go put my dog in her crate. Pepper? Right. Right. Control H. Hide this. Let's draw some legs today. Tasia. Go into recording. Okay, I got to figure out where all this stuff is going. EB. Ugh. EB, hush. Right, so can everyone hear me? Everything good?
I can hear you. I'm sure the rest can.
All right, so the Arthur Adams stuff. So I'm just trying to get looking up some reference. All right, cool. So how's everybody's week? Good. Let's go back to flow. Awesome. It's getting like colder and colder now. It's crazy.
We're still getting that mix, a bit of hot, bit of cold. It's not bad.
Not that bad. I prefer the cold. It's at least you can run or something, and then you get hot. And then when you're hot, that it's cool outside. It's kind of nice. When it's hot, it's just hot.
Yeah, that's true. Plus, you probably don't have many beaches to go to, hey?
And I wouldn't want to go to the beaches here.
Yeah, cold's nice to be in the city, but yeah, Christmas holidays, going down to the beach, that's real nice.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds nice. We went to the beach in Melbourne. That was really nice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why people like, like they come to California, like, let's go to Venice Beach. Like, you like swimming in garbage? All right, well.
No. Keep them going over there. We don't want them to find out about ours. They'll just they'll get overly crowded. We don't want that.
Yeah, yeah. It's just funny. It's people like Venice Beach, and like to Californians, where um, uh, when I was at CDA, when I was teaching for Kevin, we would get a lot of students from Australia, and then just for fun, I would take a lot of them to Outback Steakhouse.
Nice.
I don't know if you know about that. it's totally not just nothing Australian there.
Oh yeah, for
Uh,
sure.
yeah, it's just a steakhouse. Really, literally, it's just a steakhouse. Um, there's no like really no Australian, nothing Australian there, and they have uh, Nick shoot, I don't know how to say his last name is Aragi. Anyway, when I took him there, he was asking for all this Australian beer. They don't have anything except like Foster's, and he's like, "That's not Australian beer." And it's just
Damn,
like,
dude. Do they at least like put on a fake Australian accent or something like that? Like, do they do any effort?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think so. I don't think they're really. I don't think anyone notices it's supposed to. I mean, the commercials have an like that fake thick Australian accent, but
Yeah.
if you go there, the waitress and the waiters there just gonna speak to you like normal.
You know what? I think that's okay. I don't think we have any food here that's particularly Australian, is there? Besides, well, maybe our meat pies and fairy bread. I
Fairy bread. I haven't had fairy bread. What's his name? Shoot. He's like, oh, you have to have meat pie, meat pie. So I was like, all right. So we went had meat pie. Um,
aren't pie floaters
I don't know.
English, Amara? I never knew pie floaters were Australian. I thought that was like more of an English thing. Damn, there you go. We got some stuff. I guess I have no
That's
national
interesting.
pride. But yeah, fairy
Is
bread's
that-
pretty good. You know what that is, yeah?
No, I've never had fairy bread.
It's kind of just an example that we're pretty lax over here. It's pretty much a slice of white bread with butter on it, and then you just cake it in sprinkles.
Oh, nice.
That's it. Yeah.
So it's just butter and sugar, right?
Yeah. That's exactly.
Yeah.
It's so good. Every
Yeah.
childhood birthday, that's what you'd have. It was so good.
Nice. Oh man. Yeah, you can't go wrong with butter and sugar. It's like cheating. It's always it's cheating if you put cheese on it, or it's cheating if you just put butter and sugar on it. That's like cheating.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, so we're gonna go over some homework, and then we'll go into we'll start drawing legs again. Go back to Eric. So we start drawing some legs. So let's see here. Just quickly looking through the homework, it's getting better. Pie floaters. Yeah, I don't know what a pie floater is. Next time I'll try it. We just had finally got we just had meat pies, and oh yeah, and shapes. Shapes are awesome.
Yeah, shapes are the best. I can't believe the rest of the world doesn't have them. You guys are all suffering.
I know. Yeah, I thought. Yeah, it's like simple. I think they're like well, they have different flavors. So it's like I forgot I don't know what the American equivalent is. I guess it's like no, it's not Cheez Its. It has that consistency. I don't know. I just thought, you know, uh, chicken crispies are the best. Yeah, they all sound amazing. Chinese food is pretty much um, I don't know. It's really good. It's just there's such a variation within Chinese food. So it's like, even if we order like a beef noodles, they're not just like, oh, it's beef, it's like Lanzhou beef noodles. It's from this part of China. So they do things different. Or, you get beef noodles from here, they do it different. So, they usually change the broth, the noodles are different, and the way they do the beef is different. It's really cool.
That sounds
There's a
so
lot of
good.
yeah, there's a lot of food here that if you just change out some of the ingredients, it's basically Mexican food. Um, I mean, they have this thing. It's basically a burrito, except they don't use a tortilla. They use a I don't really know what it is. I think it's also made of corn, but then they fry it. And they put, like sausage, egg, and vegetables and cilantro and onions in it. And then they put some kind of Chinese paste.
Dude, that
I
sounds
think it's like
good.
yeah, and they roll it up. And I'm like, this is a burrito. And then,
Is it possibly
yeah.
the one where instead of being a corn tortilla, it's like made of purely egg?
Well, they have that too. Um, because there's one where I think it's called jimbing, where it's like a it's like dough, I think, and then they also crack an egg on top of it, on like on a griddle, and then they fry it real quick. I mean, they cook it real quick, so the egg gets what's it called, blends with the dough, and then they start putting stuff in it. And then they take I don't know what it is. It's like a wonton, I think, and then they crush it and they put it in there, so it's like soft and crunchy at the same time.
Yeah, that's kind of like we've got what's it called, like Bing Boy down here, which I think is
Bing boy.
Chinese. As in they took the recipe. I think the recipe is kind of originally Chinese, and it's that sort of a thing where it's a wrap, but it's mainly egg, and so it's extra stretchy and it's gluten free, so I can have it, which is great. But it's just like chock full of all like really nice food as well, and it's got that soft and crunchy thing at the same time. Yeah, I don't know what it is, but that kills. That's so good. I love it.
Yeah, so food here is like, I don't know, and it's like all the food here is like dirt cheap. It's like really cheap. Um, in the US, I'm always paying extra for like organic. I don't really care, but if it's organic, they like charge. They just go to town. Here, I feel like everything's organic, but
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
really cheap.
Plus, like you said, like you get variety everywhere you go, which sounds so good.
Yeah, but I also noticed something a little bit different here, where I think the vegetables go bad faster. So I think they're organic, I guess. Because
Yeah, so they'd have like less preservatives and stuff in them.
yeah, because if I get lettuce here, a couple of days later, it's already wilting and everything. Whereas like in the US, I can get lettuce and like 1 week later, I can still fine.
Dang. I'm guessing the lettuce you're getting in China is probably better for you then. Hey.
I guess. And like I said, it's really cheap. You just go downstairs. There's a like a street market, and you just go there, and then they have they have all these vegetable vendors, and then you just get what you want. It's really nice. It's like I said, it's like really cheap. I'm always kind of shocked at how cheap it is. And in America, I'm thinking like, man, this stuff is like really expensive. Or not, it's not expensive. We would say it's cheap, but here it's like even cheaper. So, and like I said, if you go to like Whole Foods or something where they have like mostly just organic stuff, it's even more pricier. So yeah, I don't know. Like I said, the food here is good, and it's like really cheap. Like McDonald's is expensive, but it's not expensive. It's like normal cost what you would probably pay in the US, or even in Australia. It's about the same price probably, but that says a lot about you can get a Big Mac combo, or you can get a whole like I don't know, rice, several dishes, some pork, and in a wrap for that much.
That's such a better deal, man. Sounds so good.
Yeah, just depends on what you're in the mood for.
Yeah, yeah, I'm hungry as
Nice.
well, Ella.
But yeah, I do. But here, I miss Mexican food, and like when I talk to like Esmeralda, and I tell her, because she's a they're Californians, so they have authentic Mexican food. And then when I tell them some of the stuff they do here with the Mexican food, they're like, that is just we should go to war for that kind of stuff. You don't put ketchup in a taco. It's not a taco. It's like you don't put, because I think they saw the picture of a taco, and then they're like, oh, ketchup and mayonnaise. No, it's sour cream.
Yeah. But then, I mean, you see what the world does to Chinese food. I feel like we've played pretty fast and loose with that kind of food as well.
Yeah, like I always like asking. I still ask people, do you know what orange chicken is? Nobody knows what orange chicken is.
What is orange chicken?
Oh, I think it's an American thing. You can get it at, I don't know if Australia has Panda Express, but they have it at Panda Express. Uh,
I don't think we have Panda Express.
it's a Americanized Chinese restaurant, or
Yeah.
it's not a restaurant. It's like a fast food place. It's like McDonald's, but Chinese food.
Well, for some reason, just the name of it makes it sound really good. So now I want to try like orange chicken.
Orange chicken. It's just orange. It's just
Yeah,
chicken that's orange.
which is like the best color. I don't know what it is about like orange and red kind of color stuff. It seems like it tastes really good.
Yeah, but it's cool. You learn a lot about regions and like the history of their food, which is also interesting because I forget which part of China they don't like to season their seafood that much because they want to show you that the seafood is very fresh and they want you to taste the fish. So they don't really add a lot of seasoning to it. So they keep everything simple. And there's another part of China where they're like, well, they didn't have access to that kind of stuff in the past, or it's more rare, or the fish is not so good, so they add a lot of seasoning.
Very cool.
It's really cool. And then there's different kinds of hot pot. So I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Every
we
region
need more
has
hot
their
pot over here. I think we have a couple of places near here, but I'd always be down for more hot pot.
hot pot. Yeah, hot pot here is like cheap. It's like I don't know what we could compare it to. It's just like it's like everywhere. If you go to like I said, if I go downstairs and I just tell the lady I'm making hot pot, they just know what to give me. Like vegetable wise, they'll just like, put it together and then they'll give it to me. Yeah, it's goes in your hot pot.
Because you're like a regular.
It's not you're just a regular. It's just if anybody says, "Oh, I'm preparing huogor," and then they're like, "Oh, okay. Well, you need cilantro. You need this. You need this. You need this. Do you have this?" And it's like, "Oh, you can put this in." There's so
That's cool, man. Okay, all this food talk. I have to go get food now. You've made me super hungry. I'm gonna duck out, make some toast. Duncan's here, just in case you
all right,
need to chat to someone. Oh
all
man,
right. All right, so let's go over some homework crits, and we'll go back in. We'll start drawing the legs, or we'll go simplifications for the legs. So once again, here, like I said, it doesn't matter what the style is. Just get in the habit of connecting your head to a rib cage. It saves you a lot of grief later, especially when we start adding more stuff to it or adding more details. It's like this one, 3/4 head.
hey
And
bro.
also, hey Duncan, if you want to add drapery, it helps to know what's underneath. You don't need to draw all of it, but you do need to know. Well, we do need to know where the like key parts are, like where the corners of the ribs are, or maybe the shape of the body, which is an average shape of the body, because drapery is a lot like muscles. Muscles are sitting on top of a bone. So because they're sitting on top of a bone, they're going to reflect the shape of the bone. Does that make sense? So 3/4 head, looks like it's slightly looking down. Draw our ears. Top of the head to the eye line, break this into thirds. Get the shape of the skull. There's our mask shape. There's a temporal ridge. Blend the skull into the face mask. Finish off the side of the face. So there's my Eric head. Now that I have the Eric head, I can start thinking about the neck. The more comfortable you get the Eric head, you'll just start to draw what's absolutely necessary. You probably won't draw all of this. You probably draw enough so that, and then move on. Because some of these like rhythms and stuff, you can add that stuff later. Find the center. Looks like you have looks like it's just a 3/4. So my center line should be a little bit closer to that edge. Drop one circle down. My pit of the neck. Draw my shoulders. Get the shape, figure out that negative space, figure out the length of the shoulders. We want to get the shoulders so we can draw our bow tie shape. Draw our center line. Maybe it's just a 3/4 view. Whole body. Measure out our 3 units. Top of the head to the pit of the neck. 1, 2, 3. Figure out the angle of the hip. It's a little bit long. 1, 2, yep. We can draw our bow tie shape now. Find the angle of our hip. Fix our center line. Figure out the angle of the rib cage. Find the crotch. And we can start building our Barbie doll or G.I. Joe shape. And I could blend our rib cage. Does that make sense? Like, it doesn't matter what your style is. It just makes it really easy for us to later on to start connecting the legs and adding the arms. Legs are something we'll go over today, or how to connect it back to the body. So cool. Yeah, like even something like this, you're getting a twist in the neck. Like, we have to figure this stuff out. Otherwise, we run the risk of our neck being broken, or just floating somewhat, like just kind of floating, or just not making any sense. All right, so 3/4 view, maybe a little bit more. If you feel like our head is tilting towards us too much, I'll draw somewhat more cartoony. There's her head. There's a mask shape. Add a little bit more for the skull, figure out the shape of the neck. figure out how that neck is going into the back of the torso, and she's arcing her back. And figure out her shoulders. So her shoulders will start from the IDK muscle. There's my shoulder shape. Get the average width of the other side of the shoulder. Maybe the shoulder is a little bit lower. I can start drawing the bow tie. So maybe we're getting a twist where we're seeing a little bit 3/4. And then when it gets down to the lower part or down to the pelvis, there's we're getting a straight view. So there's her 7th vertebrae. Now I can start figuring out how to add that arc. There's the other arm. This arm is coming back. The other arm is going forward, so probably won't see it. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Let's go crit. No problem. There's another one. Like I said, it doesn't matter what the style is. Even when you draw a face, try to figure out the skull. Like I said, it doesn't matter what the style is here. I'll show you some critiques I did last night for the Chinese students for our live stream. There's the crits. So it doesn't matter what the style is. We need to make sure the base head and everything reads. So like a head here, we need to figure out which way is the face. We need to make sure the head is clear, even without any detail. Like when I look at this, like this head, it looks like it's communicating this, but all the information is kind of telling me it should be this. Like looking down. So we don't want to give conflicting information. And if you draw, this was just something about if you draw, what's it called? A mustache. The mustache needs to describe the mouth or the ball of the mouth. Oops. And also, we want to have the shapes be interesting, even without the details. Does that make sense? Like when we're stylizing. So like here, I mean, if we draw the skull, we get the connection of the neck, we get the connection of the face. We also can figure out how to draw the hair. One thing I don't like about using just a circle for the full head, and it was kind of an issue with the Andrew Loomis book, at least for me, was that if you use a circle for a side view, and a front view, that doesn't make sense because your head is actually wider in a side view. Does that make sense? So even with an anime character, if you decide you're going to use a circle for a side view, you need to be aware that because you're using the circle also for a front view, we need to be aware and add a little bit more mass. I don't know how much you want to add. Because on the Eric head, here, let me slow down. One point, 0.8 radius or 0.9 radius is the length of the skull. So when you draw an anime character, whichever style you're working with, we just need to make sure that we add a little bit more to the back of the skull. Unless your style is the person has a circle as a side of the head, or that's the average length, then you have to figure something out for the front so that it's easier for you to rotate, or for us to rotate the character in space. If we want to keep drawing the same character and have it, things be consistent, we have to have these like kind of standard measurements. And get in the habit of drawing the neck. The reason why we want to do that is because there's lots of drawings that have a nice face, but then the neck doesn't work. So that kind of messes things up. There's lots of that's why when we draw hands, we don't want to just draw the hand by itself. We want to draw the hand and a little bit of the wrist because we want to see how the wrist flows into the hand. Because we don't want to just think of things as just parts. We want to see how can we connect it to the next thing. So I always draw a little bit of the next form or the next part. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So like here, if the person is, if it's a straight view, let's say they're tilting their head like here. We want to figure out the skull. And we want to have the head, even without any details, be kind of the shapes be interesting. So we have the circle, find the center. We don't want the face to curve. In the beginning, we just want to find a definite angle of the head, so the head's tilting. Find the overall length of the chin. So it looks like you have a character with a very a short chin. Maybe they have a narrow face. And the head is tilting this way. So I want to think about the overall gesture. First, let's find the eye line. That's a front view. So the eye line is somewhere here. Maybe there's a slight head tilt. So the head is slightly tilting down. So let's say the ears are a little bit higher. If you're drawing like something like Chris Sanders, the ears will be much smaller. Just a stylistic thing. If you not really sure how you want to design your ears, figure out that mask shape. Sorry, let me lighten this a little bit. I have a good idea of how I want to attach my hair. So I figure this out, and I know I want the head tilting, I'll figure out the gesture of the neck as well. I think it'll be a little bit, it'll be straight. And there'll be a pinch on this side. Figure out where the center of my neck is, or the pit of my neck. So let's say the pit of the neck is somewhere here. The left shoulder is higher. Does that make sense?
Yep.
We want to make sure this is working. And then we can go ahead and with our secondary form and figure out, hey, I want to draw some hair. So we're going to have the hair, looks like you have matted, like the hair just kind of coming down. So you have the hairline here. Maybe this is like a, where the hair is turning. So it's like the hairline. So I can figure out how this hair wraps around that head. Think of this as a giant mass. I can always break up the hair shape later. And then we might see a little bit of the ear peeking through because this is her bangs. We have this piece of the hair cutting over. Tucks behind the ear a little bit. Comes down. And when the hair comes down, it's going to wrap around her shoulder, or it's going to describe her shoulders. And maybe here just kind of goes off and does its own thing. We could figure out the other side of the hair. This is where it breaks off. Maybe this character has the hair going behind her ear. I'm gonna bring her bangs out. There's the hair on the other side. Also wrapping around her shoulders. And then I want the bangs to maybe have a more interesting shape. So I want to come out of the, maybe I'll have the bangs come out of the silhouette. Does that make sense? Once I figure out the base head, it's very easy to add the other parts. So here's the hair. And here's the face mask. And then because we figured out the skull, we can easily figure out the neck. Let's make it this color. Does that make sense?
Well, it does to me. It's good.
Right, cool. One of the reasons why I didn't like a lot of those how-to manga books is because they're turning their head and looking up and down. The necks are wildly different. The way they're connecting, it doesn't make any sense. And that's usually because they didn't draw or they don't understand, the person drawing it doesn't explain the skull. Also, you also have to be careful of, in the beginning stages, when we draw a center line for the head, this is drawing realistically and drawing cartoony. There's no point in adding construction if the details we add don't reinforce that construction. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like, I've seen a lot of drawings or a lot of where, they draw kind of this, they kind of have a head. This part all looks fine. Okay. And a lot of times they don't address that the head is round. They add the crosshair. And already I can see mistakes where this part of the crosshair is too long already. This doesn't make sense in terms of perspective, because that's something to be aware of, because one eye is already primed to be bigger than the other one. And then when they start adding eye details, or the eyes themselves, they're kind of not in the set, like they're not the appropriate sizes. So you'll have one eye they draw like over here, already crossing over, and the second eye is like over here. Or it's actually sticking out of the eye socket. Or they have an eye, or the eyes are completely uneven. Or the eyes look like stickers on a front plane. They don't look like what's it called, that they're sitting inside a socket. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Well, so make sure that it doesn't matter what your style is. Just make sure that the ground that we put down is solid. So it can help us give the necessary information. It's a shame to construct an insane amount of detail, or like we'll do a lot of construction and then have our details not go with the construction. It kind of negates construction itself. Makes you wonder why the artist even bothered to construct if they're not going to follow their construction lines. Even the stylized books, you have to be careful. That's why I think, I mean, this is just from drawing for a long time. I realized that gesture books that draw really loose like this from animators, they are actually really good. They're just not good for beginners because, and they say beginner's guide, but like when I read through it, or when I look at when I read through it, the literature is, yeah, it is for beginners, but it's also, I look at it and I'm thinking, well, this applies to people who are more advanced. When I look at the drawing plates, a lot of times they're more for advanced people, because when you draw really loose like this, or it's too loose, someone who has a lot of mileage under, well, just more experience, they can figure stuff out easily, or not easily, but they have the ability to figure it out. And I've seen like lots of drawings like really scribbly like this. And even my scribbly drawing, I think, has a little bit more shape to it, but I'm talking like really loose. They can figure it out. But to a beginner, it's really hard. Like how, like there's no information about how do I connect this stuff. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And a lot of stylized books, I would just be careful because some of the, like, I don't know which stylized book you're looking at, but sometimes they have like for, especially for someone learning, has counterproductive information in terms of how to draw something. And Like I've seen stylized like drawings where, you know, a lot of basic stuff is off. I'm not talking about, I'm talking about like central lines are off. So one eye, like if I wrote it, it makes it almost impossible for me to rotate the figure in space or rotate their characters in space because there is no standard. Does that make sense? One thing that you will learn is that the better our understanding of basics, like the stronger that gets, you can break down any style that you look at. Because we have some kind of like reference point, we have some kind of standard that we're gauging it by. So we know what's different. It's exactly the same as we learn Eric and then we look at somebody and then we have a ruler, so we compare Eric. And it's like, okay, well, Eric is, you know, their head is like one radius out for the one radius down for their chin, but you know, a model like Barry and a straight view, his face is longer than that. So I need to add more. So like we're already starting to compare. When you look at a style, you're going to compare it the same way, meaning except your standards are going to be a little bit different. So you're going to look at a style. Of course, the proportions are always going to be very different because it's a stylized proportion. So, but if you have Eric, you'll say, oh, well, it looks like all the figures that, or the characters this person draws, they're kind of squatty. And on average, their body is about 3 heads tall. All right, so cool, I broke that down. When they draw a face, they do have an eye socket. There is semblance of a muzzle. Maybe they don't have a muzzle. So you're already looking at that. Someone like Chris Sanders, I'll look at his style and start observing and think like, oh, you know, Chris Sanders doesn't use sharp edges. He has sharp edges, but his edges are all like rounded off a little bit. So I know, okay, I can't really have, like if I'm drawing something in his style, because that's a trademark, I shouldn't do, you know, like really sharp shapes like this. Well, not like this one, but you know, does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yep.
So we're able to break things down, and that's all based on our basics. I think, I mean, you know, any artist I've spoken to who, like, I was fortunate enough to ask them about like how they draw. It's never like, it's always just something basic that they tell me. It's like, oh yeah, you know, when I draw, you know, I don't really think about, because I want the joints to be a little bit more loose or not restrictive to bones. I just leave them a little bit bendy, and it helps with the gesture. And so when I do add like a straight or something, it makes it feel like more powerful, you know, so I want to play that up and you're like, oh, okay, that's really easy. Or it's like, oh, I like using bubbly shapes. Or I like this combination of shapes. Like I like using a big head, a medium-sized body, and little squatty legs. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Squatty legs is absolutely something that I like drawing.
Nice.
I've tried to move away from it.
I mean, like robot wise, like, you know, I noticed that I tend to like, you know, I just kind of looked at the kind of robots I like. Just, you know, this is like a personal to you, right? Or, you know, whatever you like. But when it comes to machinery or mechs, I tend to like mechs that are like meaty and like very, a little bit clunky. But
Yeah, I feel you.
Really big. Yeah. So like, for example, like this I thought was a cool proportion for a mech. It's Optimus Prime, but let me just grab him. He's very needy. He's a big figure, but so I tend to like proportions where they're just like huge like this at the top.
Yep.
You know, they have like a lot of heft, and then you look at their legs. Their leg has a lot of weight to it, So like if like the animated Transformers, I really like Ironhide. He's got the huge upper body, and he's got the really short legs, but his legs are also like very meaty as well. It's just something just I don't know why I like those kind of mechs, but I just tend to like that. It's just a preference.
Yeah, man. They kept them all really cubistic as well, didn't they? Like the older Transformers, a lot of like their forearms are just a big like box. Everything was really just boxy. I like that. They started to get like really formy, I think, when I don't know at some point, but I remember them all just being like squares, and that was good. I like that.
Yeah, like this one. This is
Yeah.
yeah, Black Lives Matter. That's something that this one YouTuber talks about, and I agree with him. Like those Transformers usually look really good up in the front, and then you turn them around, they look like garbage because they hide
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
stuff. But this company did a really good job hiding everything because it does transform. The back is very clean. You don't really, and even when it transforms into a truck, uh, it's pretty seamless. So
Nice.
just really good engineering. But this was made to look like the cartoon.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it looks just like the stuff from what was that way back in the 90s or no 80s or whatever. I don't
80s,
know.
yeah.
Back before I was around.
Yeah. Yeah, I do like Xiaobi the Hong. I like that dude stuff. I think he gives pretty good because I like figures. There's a and then also being in China, I have access to a lot of really good knockoffs. The kind that I can't find in the US or they're really expensive in the US. And as a transformer, I don't collect, I'm not a hardcore collector, but I don't like a lot of the official transformer figures. They're like needlessly expensive, and I like the engineering is kind of poor, and the knockoffs do a much better job, which is kind of sad. And they're cheaper.
I do remember feeling that way when I was. I mean, I haven't really looked at Transformers for a while, but when I was younger, there was a certain point where I got where I was like, they just stopped making them. Yeah, there's something less impressive about them. I guess like they got to a point where they just went like the easiest manufacturing route instead of what looked coolest or what worked coolest. They lost
Yeah,
my
I
business at
mean,
that point. I was like 13 and I was like, yeah, no more. I was done.
well, I agree. Like uh the video game companies do this as well too. Right? It's just a universal thing where they release one mold and then people like it, and then they'll just change like the color.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
They'll
yeah.
release it
It's like a
again.
slightly
Oh
different
yeah,
skin sort of thing where they just change the color a little bit. Yep.
yeah. They're like, oh yeah, this is like new engineering. No, it's the same figure. You just change the color. So it's like I think Netflix had that the Transformers, was it Earthrise or whatever, that new special, and then they released the same Optimus Prime figure, but then they just made his blue areas slightly darker, and then $50.
Oh, it's terrible, isn't it? It's just the
It
worst.
is, it is, but that's why I buy a lot of knockoffs. And if you buy a knockoff, and especially with not this, they have metal insignia that you can buy, and then if they're made to pop off that area, and then you can stick the metal piece on, or a plastic insignia of an Autobot or a Decepticon, and it makes them look more like if you put them next to an official one, they look official.
Nice. That sounds super cool.
Yeah. So like, and like I said, in China, it's not that expensive because it's not they make it here, and then also I don't know, you can also talk to them, talk to
Yeah, yeah.
the buyer. It did the store guys. Hey, I'm gonna buy a lot of figures from you. Can you like give me a deal here? And like, oh yeah, yeah, sure, sure. So
Do they make Zoids
yeah,
in China as well? Do you know if
they
that's
make
how they make
what?
them? Zoids? Do you remember Zoids? Zoids are cool.
Yeah, they have all kinds of stuff here. Like I didn't know about Korean Power Rangers. That's something I'm finding out more recently. Like their designs are different. They look more kid friendly.
Yeah? Can you give us an example? Like, can we see a pic?
Uh, um, I have to check their YouTube because there's a guy who reviews their toys. And I was kind of curious, like this looks a lot like the Megazord, but like a different version, but like a more kid-friendly version. And yeah, even the transformation, they kind of copy it. So, Korea has their own kind of Power Ranger looking robot type stuff. China has their own transformer, like their official looking transformer stuff. I forget what they're called, but if you saw it, you know what they're trying to mimic.
Oh yeah,
Um,
but I guess they do it slightly better or slightly different. So
well, the cartoon wise, the American ones are better. The ones that they do in the US, they're better.
oh yeah,
Uh, or the ones that they do in Japan are better. Even the Korean ones, I think the Japanese, I can see who they're trying to mimic. And the Japanese, the original guys, they do it better. Um, and design wise, it's just like I can tell you're trying to copy like the Megazord because it looks like the Megazord a little bit. Just I think the Korean one is a little bit more chunkier.
but
And
that's what you like, isn't it? If it's a little bit chunkier, then sure you'd be down for that.
I'll be down for it, but I think just the engineering, I don't know. The engineering is just kind of a little bit lazy.
Oh right, so I kind of thought that maybe they're ripping it off but making it a little bit better. But if it's not better, then I guess there's not much of a point.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like you look at the when you look at the robot, you can tell, oh, that's gonna be a body, or
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
gonna be a helmet, and then you can see that the it's kind of reaching sometimes. It's like, oh, it's a car. It's like, no, it's not a car. It doesn't look like a car. It just looks like
Yeah.
the robot that got hunched over. So yeah, it's like that, but it's all very interesting. They have their every kind of country with like if they have budget for entertainment, it's kind of cool to see their version of stuff.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's a Chinese cat character that I saw recently. It's like an old 80s, no, like 90s cartoon, and it's very dated. Um, Man, but they straight up just shoot mice.
Oh wow.
I mean, it's very kid friendly looking, but then they just shoot the mice, and the mice die. It's not like American cartoons where they get shot and then they pretend to die and they're gone, they're dead.
Dang. I guess it's teaching kids to be against mice. So if you see them, you gotta get them.
I guess it's like it's kind of like Tom and Jerry. It's like a cat is a police officer, and I think the mice were like just criminals, and then they're chasing them. It was limited animation, which makes it very funny. And then yeah, just straight up in this one scene, there's a crow, and they keep changing the scale of the crow. So sometimes he's big, sometimes he's like the size of a mouse. Because I don't know if they decided. I guess they didn't plan that out. And then yeah, just the cat just caps the dude in the ass and he just kills him. Just like they start chasing after him, and then he like does the whole stick your tongue out thing. That's like normal in a cartoon. And he just shoots him.
It's like the episode that they were too afraid of doing in like Tom and Jerry. They just like send it over and
Yeah.
make something else.
Yeah. Well, I don't think they care about that stuff here. So it's like But hey, back to this. A similar. Don't worry about all these lumps and these bumps. Here, I'll show you. We want to make sure that we can get the drawing to look clear without any of that stuff before we add it. So, sorry, I'm in the process of going back and then reorganizing the book, and I'm trying to finish it soon or in the next few months. It's been really hard because I keep learning new stuff and I'm always teaching, so I'm always updating it.
That's exciting.
So I have figured if I keep doing this, I'll never finish. So I just kind of have to lock it down. Like, if the publisher wants to do like several different versions of the book, like a second edition, then I'm down with that.
Yeah,
Right now, I
cool.
just need to finish it. So like step one is make sure your stage one, your stage two, and your stage 3 with your leg, it looks good. There's not a lot of detail here. The only kind of bumps I do add are ones that I absolutely need. Like I do need a little bit of a deltoid so I can figure out how I'm going to connect the arms. Oh, thanks.
So when do we get hooked up? Like when can we grab a copy? That's what I want to know. I really want to be flicking through this.
The PDF, like, yeah, I'll let you guys know. Yeah, I'm sure we'll stay in contact. I'll let you guys know. It's not, and then once we do that, once it's already working at this stage, it's very simple. We can start adding a few ellipses. We don't need to go ellipse crazy, you know, just so it's just enough. Yeah, thank you. I know Duncan wants to talk to Simon. It should be fun. I mean, I've never taught a 12-week character design class before. Usually like 10 weeks. So I think it'll be cool. So hopefully everybody will get to have a finished, refined figure. I mean, a character at the end. Because the first, you know, in a character class for the first 5 weeks, I just have people sketch. You know, so I'm not too concerned about actual finishes, and I have them explore different styles. So they get used to, you know, kind of drawing out of the shapes that they normally use. And then the 5th week, I introduced the final class project. So like last week was Samurai Showdown in Chris Sanders' style. That's why I kind of had to do a little bit of observation of Chris Sanders. And I was saying, yeah, he doesn't use sharp edges at all. So I had to go back and make all of Hellmutter's hair into bananas.
It looks so sick, man.
And Chris Sanders doesn't draw tall people, or like they're not tall, you know, or they don't look tall. All of his people look very squatty a little bit. So yeah, I just have to finish it. I finish them, and then so I draw them kind of normal, and then I try to figure out his proportions because he doesn't have that many male characters for me to reference. Though the characters I looked at were like some of the characters in How to Train Your Dragon and the Croods, because you know there's more men there that are in the Croods. There's people who are a little bit more more buff looking or bigger, that type of character, and then you just add your own. You know, try to add your flair to it. See, like, how would Chris Sanders design this? You're still playing around with the shapes. For the Chinese students, the character class, or it's an animation class, they're just putting everything together. I'm having them do the South Park characters, but I didn't give them a specific style because I don't think, I think that'll make it too hard for them. So I'm just showing them, you know, like, I don't really have a specific style for this. I just, you know, just some cutesy, whatever, a little bit more cute kind of style. So I just started sketching, and then I was showing them like, okay, this is how you start a character and how you can play around with it. So that's what I'm drawing. So it's just to have them draw like different body types. So you have the fat character, the skinny character, a normal character, and a short character. And short is relative. So in mine, Stan is the shortest character. Like he's just short. He's not like ridiculously short. He's just a little bit short. Kyle is the normal character. Kenny is the skinny character, and he's also very tall. And then Cartman's always going to be the fat character. So just so they get used to playing with those different body types. But anyway, so on the second step, what we want to do is we can start adding a little bit of ellipses. And, you know, we're not really changing the drawing that much from stage 1. Right? Pretty much it is the same drawing. We just add a few ellipses. We add the ellipses so we know which way things are going, and we don't want to go ellipse crazy. You know, this is enough, like 1 or 2, like 2 maybe at the ends of the form or where you think your form is going to end. That's enough. You don't need to you know, turn them into bendy straws unless you really need that information. And then finally, we can start modifying the form. We can start adding the lumps and the bumps by, you know, we can use what we're going to do today. We just using some simple ovals, some simple primary shapes, and we change our silhouette. And because we're thinking very simply from the very start, when it comes to figuring out how to add some lighting to it, it's very easy. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That's really cool.
This beginning stage is really important. It's not about like I said, it doesn't matter what your style is. If you can get your drawing to read very well at the beginning without much detail, and it already looks good, it communicates well, you're number one, you're off to a good start. Second, whatever details you add, probably they're just going to be icing on the cake. It's going to get better and better. What we don't want is a drawing that starts off ambiguous and kind of you're not sure where you're going. We're not sure where we're going. It doesn't look so good, but then we just keep adding to it. Most of the time it gets worse and worse. And at least this way, what happens is if we screw up somewhere, we can just go back a step and easily figure out we can problem solve. Like, okay, well, my form here doesn't look right. Something's wrong. I go back a step and I look at my overall and I'm like, okay, well, my perspective is off. Okay, cool. That's quick fix. I just erase it, change it, fix that area, then I go back. If it's too far gone, that's when I think a lot of times that's when we have to start over. And if like I said, this kind of it won't guarantee that won't happen, but at least it'll greatly reduce the chances of you having to always restart a drawing, because you can just go back one or two steps.
Ah, damn it. When you're saying it's too far gone, would that be like once you've gotten it to the point where you're starting to render and you realize it's stuffed? Do you reckon that's too far?
Yeah, if you especially when you get into rendering, you've been rendering it for 8 hours or 4 hours or some ridiculously long time. Number one, you're probably not going to want to change it. I mean, that's a thing too, because and you're also, I don't know if you know that feeling, but it's that your heart sinks because you're like, oh man, this is messed up. There's a lot of work to fix this. Even when you render, you will be fixing stuff, right? But it should be very minor things, like little nudges. It shouldn't be like, hey, the proportion is completely off, or hey, my legs are not connected, or I don't know. Well, when it comes to tone, my overall tone doesn't make any sense. And also, we want to have this stuff working, because when we're designing, we don't want basic stuff to be holding us back. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I know there's lots of students that are in the character class, and in the sketching phase, they're okay. They do pretty well. But then when it comes time to, all right, now we got to lock it down and finish it. And when I say finish it, I don't mean like the long pose design figure drawing class that where they have to finish a painting, or have a academic style finished figure drawing. The finish just needs to be a finished painting, relatively finished. And usually at that point, that's when a lot of intimidation factor kicks in, when it's like, oh, I don't really know how to render a face or draw a face completely, from beginning to end, or I don't know how to draw fingers. We don't want that stuff to be holding us back. Basically, it should be those are things that should be not even a thought. It's not a big deal. So we can actually focus on how to light it and what kind of colors we want to use, that kind of stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, when it comes to rendering, there's another level of that where we don't, when it comes to rendering, we don't want the drawing to be holding us back. So the lay-in is where we work out a lot of the stuff. And then when we render, we don't have to worry about the drawing that much anymore. We can just render and focus on value edges. And if you're painting in color, we can just focus on that, because the drawing's already done. It's locked in, it's finished. And the better and more confident we get at that kind of stuff, we can freely do things in any kind of order we want. That's where you can really start multitasking. So here, don't worry about any of these bumps on G. And most of the time, those bumps are not as bumpy. Just figure out the head positioning. So this is a 3/4 head. There's a slight perspective to it. After this, we should start drawing the leg. I'll start putting the crits in both folders, and then I'll put the same crits, and then I'll put 2 demos in both folders. So take your time. I mentioned this yesterday. Remember, more lines in a drawing don't mean a good drawing. If those lines don't really count for anything, it's almost the same as not having drawn at all. Hey, my friend that's a boxing coach, he says it best. He's like, you can throw like 20 punches at a guy. If none of them land, then you're just wasting energy, you're wasting time. And that dude throws like 2 punches or 1 punch, and it hits you in the right spots because he's planning it out and he's taking his time. Those actually count. It's very similar when we draw. We have to kind of be calm and not let the timer freak us out. Just because it's a quick pose doesn't mean we do stuff like this. It's not drawing slowly, it's training calmly. If you're inclined to draw really fast, start a timer, and you have to be okay with you're not going to finish the drawing in 10 minutes. Like, I think 10 minutes is a good base. What you do is have clear goals for the 10 minutes, make a checklist. Like, I have you guys focus on stage 1 or parts 1 and parts 2. That's where the focus needs to be for 10 minutes. If I don't get to part 1 and part 2, if my part 1 looks good in 10 minutes, that's a good drawing. That's a success. I had success. And basically, you will get faster over time that way, versus it's very hard to slow down. It's very easy to speed up. Like, in the beginning, like, of the day, my drawings are I draw a lot slower, and usually towards the end of the day, I draw a lot faster. It's because I found my pace where I'm not drawing too slow. I'm not drawing too fast. It just takes time. But because your drawings become more goal oriented, you do end up drawing more efficiently. I wouldn't say you're drawing faster, you're just drawing more efficiently, which to a lot of us looks really fast. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If you do a lot of long poses, I think, or longer drawings, I think that will help you to understand what is actually important and what you don't need. Like, if you're drawing somebody from life, they're, like at the park, let's say you've done a lot of finished drawings, you're probably going to know what's really important. Like, I don't really care. Like, this person's going to be gone in like 30 seconds anyway, or maybe 10 seconds. So what do I need to get? So I need to figure out what they're actually doing. All right, okay. So I'll make a quick note of that and I'll start drawing. And then anything after that will just be bonus. Oh, I remember this person had a really big hoodie on. Okay, cool. I remember they had, I remember them having really skinny legs. Those are like secondary things. And then, I don't remember what the hands were doing. Oh, that's easy. You can just take reference of your own hands, or you can look at someone else's hands and then you can redraw that. So, you start making these priorities. Does that make sense?
Yep.
It's like and I just remember right now the first Men in Black movie where I think there's a test for Will Smith where they have all these agents, and what's it called? They put him in a room, a target testing room or target practice. There's like a shooting range, and there's all these aliens, and all the other agents are just like shooting all the aliens in the room. And then Will Smith, I think, takes like one shot, and it's of a human.
Yeah, I remember that. Man, good movie.
Yeah, and then it's like why did you shoot that girl? And he's like, well, it's because I forget. It's like, what is a girl like this
Yeah,
doing?
yeah. She's got like some sort of advanced science book, and he's like, "Yeah, there ain't no
Yeah,
5 year old that's reading that kind of stuff."
yeah, like she's up to no good, you know. And all the aliens like, well, he's clearly, you know, that the alien on top of
Like
the
a street
street
light.
light.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's like he's obviously fixing it, and then he actually took the time to look around.
yeah.
That's what it is. So you have to, yeah, metaphysics book. There you go. We have to. It's the same thing when we draw. When we draw, we just kind of have to think about what's important instead of just going out wildly, just just throwing down lines. It's a good habit, I think. It's something that you develop over time and just mileage. In terms of your figure drawing skills, it depends on what you're trying to do. Like how deep you want to go with the amount of knowledge you want. That's on you, right? And it really comes down to what you really want to do. Um, there was an artist I knew. His name was Jackson Z. He's like a environment artist, or he was an environment artist. He's working at Marvel. Um, he studied the figure up to a certain point because then he realized, okay, I can draw figures well enough to do that, to do a certain thing. And that was the limit of, you know, how much you wanted to learn. I don't know how, if he wants to learn more now or anything, because I haven't talked to him in a long time, but that made sense. For me, I liked, you know, doing movie poster type stuff. How much is well enough? Well, it depends. If you're doing like a more, it depends on how you want to draw. Definitely knowing more will work to your advantage. But I think a lot of times you will know. I mean, if you're trying to draw something like Looney Tunes, or maybe sorry, even anime has different levels, right? If you're trying to draw like Crayon Shin or Shin-chan, right? You don't need to know that much. You just need to have some basic skills down, right? Right. But if you want to draw like on Naruto and you want to be on team A, you know, the team that does really the cool animation and stuff, you do need to know your anatomy up to a certain level. If you want to do illustration, you do need like, and you need to draw more realistically, you do need to know a little bit more. And after a certain point, anatomy is just bragging rights. I don't know, like there's no reason for us, like today I'll explain some of the muscles. Like there's no reason for us to know those muscles because like for at least for drawing, because we'll never see them, or probably will never see them. The chances of you encountering, especially in the leg, is very rare because most of the people that you draw are going to be wearing pants or shorts. And even if somebody wears like tights, it still doesn't show. Even like bodybuilders, that's where I can actually see it very clearly. They have to be in certain positions and flex a certain way to get those muscles to pop. So we'll go over some of the simplified, we'll simplify the leg today, but basically the idea here is draw the head. There's a twist in the body. Okay. So let me lighten the background a little bit so we can see a little bit better. Like I said, if you need like just really try to figure out what it is you want to do with your stuff, with the stuff you're learning. And I think that'll help guide you to how much figure drawing or how realistically you want to draw or what kind of stuff you need to learn. And generally knowing a lot more, it only works to your advantage. especially if later on you want to switch. You know, like you want to switch careers or you want to switch styles or you're tired of drawing a certain way and it's like you want to try something else, then you know, if we're able to do more, then you know, you have more options. I think there's a misconception, like even for a lot of art center students, they think after they graduate, like they're done. It's not how it works. I think when you graduate art center, you're just starting. So just continually learn. That's the main thing. Quarter view. Okay. Well, you always have the option of going back and forth. You know, if you like, this is just so you don't burn out. Like, I don't like drawing realistically all the time. I don't like drawing cartoony all the time. So I go back and forth. It just depends on how you want to draw that day, especially if it's drawings for yourself or stuff you want to work on. You're in charge of that. So I mean, when you go to school, they give you like, you know, like a purpose. It's like, you know, an instructor will say like, okay, I want you guys to do X amount of drawings and I want it to be in you know, I want proportions and stuff like that all to be correct. And then maybe, you know, you go to like a character design class or a design character design class, and they're just like, oh yeah, we just want you to draw to tell a story. Which I think eventually that's what we're all working towards. So I think a lot of the stuff I teach, it's more just tools. Like, you know, use a center line, use this. Because generally that, you know, it leads to good results, but after a while or later on, you're gonna have to utilize or figure out how to use those tools to do whatever it is you want to do. Yeah, like I know it's a very it's maybe a bit corny. It's like they always say there are no rules, there's only tools. I mean, that's true. Yeah. But here, just make sure stage one and part two, they're working. Because you know, right now, after we'll go into we'll take a short break and we'll go into the legs. Yeah, I need like an hour and a half to do the legs. Because if stage one, part one and part two are worked out, it's very easy to work on part three. All right. Let's take a short break, like a 5-minute break, and then we'll do a yeah, we'll start drawing the legs.
All right. See you in 5.
5. The demo from yesterday, so I can reference this and go back and forth. Gotta draw a little bit bigger. Pelvis. crotch. About here. Fish. Right, so it's a little bit bigger. Okay, I think that's about 5 minutes. Everybody back?
We're all back in here. I'm not sure about everyone on Flow. Collaborate.
All right, cool. Right, so let's get started with connecting the legs. So one of the things we need to be aware of is on part 3, this is part 2, we need to be able to draw the Barbie doll or G.I. Joe shape, which is going to be this area here. So once we find our iliac crest, we're going to draw a cylinder. We can box it off later. It's easier to draw cylinders first. I'm going to take from the iliac crest, or where you cut that off, to the bottom of the pelvis. I'm going to cut that in half. It's going to give us our stomach insertion, as well as the pubic triangle. If we take this distance, we break it into thirds.
Oh, Joe, your mic is still on.
Ah, dang it. Left my mic on, sorry.
Break this into thirds. It gives us our underwear shape, or the cut line. And then what we're going to do is we're going to fill this in. There you go. So this is where we get our Barbie doll or G.I. Joe shape. We need to figure this out. So that we have this hole here where we can stick our legs. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
If you're wondering how the stomach fits into this, we've done this in the, we went over torsos, is it's a good color here. Like a light purple. It's wrapping across. And it's biting into our pelvis like this. Once we figure this out, we can add the legs, which is a fish. We'll do the right side on this one. So this is our fish shape. The green, like yesterday. It's basically a ball that sits inside. And there's our fish. It's kind of a fish with its mouth kind of sucking onto the hip. And we want to identify the knees because the feet will generally face the same direction as the knees. Does that make sense?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And we can easily figure out the curvature of the leg by just adding a few ellipses. We can treat the knee when it's not bent like a Coke can. So we're going to get a curve in the leg. And right before you start, when you look at the way the fat distributes, men get fat here. We get that spare tire thing going on at the waist. Women get fat at the hip. That's why a lot of women, even when they get a little bit, when they're a little bit overweight, they still maintain a little bit more of an hourglass shape, where men, we look like pears.
Yeah, it's rough, man. I want to get rid of that weight.
Wait. Yeah. Men and women. This is a man woman. And once we find the bottom of the pelvis here, we do want to add a little bit for the crotch. Just go a little bit down. Yeah. For the genitals. And usually this will hide our gluteus muscle coming from the back. All right.
Yep. Mhm.
All right. So remember I think a few weeks ago, we talked about analytical or anatomical rhythm, which means relationships and connections that are formed by anatomy.
Yeah, I remember that. Yep.
Okay, so we have one, it's the longest muscle in the body. Once we find the iliac crest, it's like a little happy face. It's gonna give us our first cut in our leg. It starts at the iliac crest, it cuts down. It rolls down the side of the leg. And attaches to our tibia, which is our lower leg bone. And then it continues down into our shin bone, or this is the rhythm. Then it comes out to our inner ankle, which is higher than our outside ankle. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Next to this, we have these abductor muscles. We're gonna just group all of that into one mass. We have a muscle here called the gracilis. We have a muscle, the adductor magnus. We have the iliopsoas, which starts up here and it's responsible for, when we do any kind of like sit up. But you will never see those. And pectineus muscle, usually we'll just see a little cut mark here. Like so. And basically what this is showing us is the sartorius is separating the muscles that go with the upper leg, with the bone, and the muscles that are just going to hang off. That's why when you see somebody raise their leg, you see this cut mark, you'll see the upper leg bone, which is called the femur. It'll come forward like this, and there's our box. What the sartorius does is it separates. The sartorius is showing us muscles that go towards the femur, and the after the femur, the sartorius, it's muscles that connect or that kind of droop over.
Wait, which leg are we looking at here on this one here? Is the left the outside or the left inside of the leg?
This is the left leg. So on here, we're looking at the leg from the inside. So this portion is following the femur, and this part is following the the inside of the leg. That's why we usually get a bump here like this, like a separation in the muscles. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I follow you now.
So that's what this is saying. So, you know, the muscles here will go with the femur. Bring this muscle over, sorry. Round this off. Right. So right next to our sartorius muscle, we have this muscle called the tensor fascia lata muscle. And basically we can think of it like the front deltoid of our, what's it called? Of our hip. Our front deltoid allows us to raise our arms up forward like this. Our tensor fascia lata appears when the leg gets pulled up like this. And it's kind of a teardrop shape. And it's connected with another ligament called the iliotibial band, and it kind of looks like a claw. So we'll have a separation here. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And right behind that, we have your gluteus medius. The gluteus medius is basically the side of our deltoid. So the gluteus medius is most active when our legs go out to the side. Just like our arms. We have a deltoid in the middle. Our arm, it's most active when we raise our arm out to the side like this. So this creates a little hollow, and this is a muscle I never forget. Like the name, it was like one of the first muscles that I learned. Other than, you know, like the basic stuff that we already know, like, you know, your pecs, your abs, bicep, tricep, stuff like that. And this one's called the rectus femoris. I had a misunderstanding about it. I thought it was called rectus femoris because I thought it was like rectus. It's like rectum, you know, like a butthole.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then femoris because like, oh yeah, it's a femur. So yeah, okay, so it comes out of a butthole. It's like a muscle that attaches to the femur that comes out of a butthole because, you know, there's a little hollow right here.
Yeah.
And that's what's going on. But no, it really just means rectus means, and if you see rect in any kind of anatomy name, it just means it's to straighten, like erect.
Yep.
That's what it's talking about.
Yep.
So rectus femoris is the muscle that helps you straighten out your femur.
Ah, yeah. See, learning a bit of Latin would come in handy like right now.
Yeah. And basically, there's 3 muscles here that make up your quads. But we're going to simplify it into this giant teardrop shape. And one of the keys to drawing believable legs or believable limbs in general is keeping your curves offset. Attaches to your patella or your kneecap, and there'll be a little nose down here. It's called the nose of the tibia. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you ever draw like a leg and you want to, you don't really know, let's say you don't really know the muscles in the leg, or you're not really sure what's going on with the arms, just make sure that your lines are opposing curves, meaning don't have your curves after you draw your gesture be like this. This is what creates Michelin Man syndrome. We want our curves to be offset. So if you draw a leg, or let's draw a curved leg, we should just draw something similar. Find the overall gesture of the leg. There's our ankle. There's the foot. It's like a front view. Make sense so far?
Yep. I'm with you.
Right? So this leg's a little bit too long. Down. Right, so here's our overall gesture. And then when we start making our curves, we can basically draw ovals inside and just slant them. So we have a curve here. This will give me the inside of the leg. Curve here, curve here. Cool. Goes pretty straight. And we get another curve. Curve here, curve here. There's our kneecap. The only place where it kind of flips over is in the ankles, where the inside is higher. The outside is lower. We draw the toes. Curve here, curve here. Make the foot a little bit longer. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that looks good. I didn't realize the curves were offset all the way down, like with the calf. I didn't realize they were yeah, I didn't realize the outside was higher.
Yeah, it has to be like this because our muscles don't grab, like, our muscles don't grab onto the same, like if you have our humerus, in order for the humerus to raise the forearms, the muscles in the humerus need to attach to the forearm muscle, I mean the forearm bones, right? Like the radius or the dang it, I forget. Oh, or the ulna, so it can lift. It's not going to connect to itself. You're not going to have muscles do this. That doesn't work. It's just not doing anything. It'll connect to the next thing. That's why we get all these opposing curves. And we know about our cut line. Make this curve a little bit longer then. Going into the outside ankle. foot. The inside of the calf. It's the same thing if you ever draw arm. It's the same logic. So, if you draw, let's say, an arm coming out like this, get the overall gesture. There's my noodle for the hands. It's my thumb. Index finger. And figure out the overall gesture. I mean, the overall direction by adding a few ellipses. We can add our first oval, which is going to be the deltoid. So we have a curve here. We have our bicep. Then we have our forearm. And we have our lower forearm. Maybe I might add a little bit of a bump here for the ulna. So we can have this here and then this here. So opposing curves are the keys to drawing limbs. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, this is cool. Doing a lot of drawing along. Yeah, that's why I'm all silent. I'm trying to jot everything down as quick as possible.
Okay, cool. Let's follow, take your time even with this stuff. We have another rhythm that comes down. Remember, I told you about the iliotibial band, this thing here. When it comes to the what's it called? The lower legs, I really don't see a lot of muscles very often. There's usually a lot of it's done with edges or when you render. We have this muscle called the tibialis anterior, and the iliotibial band will group as a gesture with that muscle, and that muscle rolls down the side of the leg and it connects to the side of the foot. Really, you can just group all of this. Just make sure that for the lower leg, we get the shin bone cutting across. And then we have the opposing curves. There's our oval. And then remember, the outside ankle is lower than the inside ankle. It's our fibula. It's usually not going to be like this. Just a very subtle bump. The bone that's usually a lot more obvious is the inside ankle. Then we can add the inside ankle. I mean, inside calf muscle. That's a really quick way or a simple way of just simplifying the legs, or at least the muscles in the legs. As long as we can get that silhouette working, usually it's not a problem. So we can group the muscles like this, multiply layer. This is one group. And this is the next group. It's just more important that we get this this shin bone thing working, because this is something you can actually see. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's good.
Yes, shin bone thing. It's it's really the tibialis anterior muscle that's gonna run down the side. Like this, and it's gonna help define the shin bone. This is where we can usually see these details here. Yeah, this is going to be your actual bone. This is a tibialis anterior. There's the angle of your tibia, nose of the tibia, and then we can actually see some of the shin bone here, like this. There'll be another muscle in here, and then another muscle out here. I mean, without, like, this is just a simplification. We have a muscle here called the gracilis on the inside. We have the adductor magnus, which cuts over, which attaches to the front and goes towards the back. Just slightly indicate these. We have the pectineus. And we have a muscle right here that starts underneath and attaches to the spine and it rolls down like this, called the iliopsoas. And that's the muscle I was talking to you about that helps you do sit-ups. There's the gracilis, but you won't see this. I think the only time I see this on an actual model is when they're like doing the like a split kick kind of pose, where they have both two legs. I mean, of course, two legs. Their arms are on the ground, one leg is on the ground, and they lift their leg up in the air. and I'm on the other side, then I can see some of this stuff. But even Spider-Man with all his tights, you shouldn't be able to see this. So the quads, there's 3 muscles here. We're just not going to draw them. We're just going to group them together.
So is the 4th one underneath, so you can't see it?
Yeah.
Ah, good. It needed a 4th because it's good quads.
Yeah, it's quads, yeah.
Setting my brain off.
We'll go over some knees too. There's the drawing of the knee that we'll be doing. And then on the inside, there's your gastrocnemius muscle. And then it's called the soleus, which is underneath. Here we have the tibialis anterior muscle, which goes down and attaches to the side of the leg. We have the extensor digitorum muscle, which splits off and goes towards all of your toes, except the big toe. There's another muscle that goes there. Then you have a muscle here called the peroneus longus. It rolls down and goes behind your ankle. And then this is this muscle and this muscle are the same. It's a gastrocnemius muscle. But that's, I don't think we really ever see those that much. Well, you probably won't be in a situation unless you're doing like a really long pose where you can even see, it's called the fibula bone. And then you can actually see all the connections there. It's not that important anyway. It's the femur. Here's the dang it, the tibia. And then in between your knee pad, I mean your what's it called, patella, we have our knee pads, or that fat. So it helps it lubricates and helps your knee move up, move around the femur. Does that make sense? So these are just secondary notes. Just make sure you get these areas working. All right, so let's draw the back view. To draw a back view, everything's the same, except for the what's it called, the hip. In the front, our pelvis leans towards us, right? Like this, right? So this is the perspective. In the back, we need to do the opposite. Does that make sense? It's going over this way.
Yep.
And there's something I didn't get to go over yesterday, I just recalled, this is only specific for women, and more specifically, women who are they'll carry more weight. There's a diamond shape that forms down the lower of their back. It's called the rhombus or a rhombus type shape. It's called the rhombus of Michaelis. And only women can get it because it's just because of, like I said, the fat distribution. So it's like a little diamond shape that can happen, especially if the person is, if you're drawing someone who is like more heavy set, and then there's a female. So just in case, don't draw that on men. Actually, go ahead and draw it on men. I don't think most people know it. It's just like a random thing. Only like an anatomy nut, or like me or somebody who knows will look at it. Hey, that's shouldn't be on a man. So what we're going to do is we're going to find the halfway point. And remember, on the back, it's the opposite. And this is where we're going to get our sacrum. And it's not really the sacrum. The sacrum is longer, but the sacrum is going to get covered by the gluteus maximus muscle. So it starts about here. You're looking for basically a rabbit or a cat's mouth. Here's our thong shape in the back. All of this is going to be filled in with the ball. Like so. Does that make sense? Just looking for that cat's nose. When you look through a lot of anatomy books, they draw the gluteus maximus muscle and they just don't include the fat. So when you draw the muscles with the fat, there needs to be a little bit more mass. Like I said, so this is fat. It looks weird when you look at bodybuilders and they're down to like, I don't know, like less than 5%, I feel like sometimes. Body fat.
Yeah, that's like when you can see all the like the striations in the muscle in the butt. That's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird. Also, I was following a guy who was doing his first Olympia show, and then man, it's ridiculous how weak they get. Like they're super ripped, but then they're lying down most of the time behind the stage. Like so, a lot of them are just lying down, and it's because of they only eat enough carbs to help them with getting up on stage and doing their stuff. After that, they crash.
Damn.
And this guy has a trainer telling him, yeah, don't walk too much. It's like you only need enough carbs to do this. It's like, oh, you just need to survive for like endure for 2 more hours, and then you can eat and basically live like a human being.
Man, I keep hearing you talk about bodybuilding. It sounds just terrible for you. Oh,
it is. You are destroying your body. It really is. A lot of bodybuilders, they do get well, I think it's a smart, like there's a lot of ones that say that I get my blood work done regularly because they want to make sure that their body's okay before they start cycling all their their supplements or their growth hormones and everything.
yeah, that's absolutely fair.
Yeah, so they get a lot of blood work done. It's a very demand when I hope you guys know when they're on the stage, they're actually really weak. They look awesome, but they're really weak. It's like they're taking supplements so that their body gets it releases a lot of water, so they look extra dry. So they're dehydrated. they've been on ridiculously low amount of calories for, I don't know, I forget how the weeks work out, but because they need to look absolutely lean on that day, actually for 2 days. So the first day is, I think, pre-judging, and then there's still chance for them to they look different the next day. If they try to make changes in a day. Like, hey, you look flat. The front view in red color. Oh, I just drew it this way so that they're the same leg. And it just saves me time from redrawing everything. Yeah. If I was drawing traditionally, I would have to draw everything all over again. Yeah, that's the only reason why it's in red. But anyway, so here's the back view of the leg. And the heel will probably be somewhere here. The main muscles we need to pay attention to in the back are the gluteus maximus muscle and the gluteus medius. You can treat it like this giant ball. And those muscles tend to make the gluteus maximus, or this air region, look like a butterfly. And the reason why it looks like a butterfly is because it's the shape that it's mimicking the shape of our pelvis. It has a down plane here. Make sure I'm on a separate layer. Does that make sense?
Yep.
It rounds off. And your leg will pop right in there. And then you have the iliotibial band, which rolls down the side and attaches at the front. It's this thing here. Oops. So remember, it's attaching at the front. We get the silhouette of, finish off the silhouette of the leg. There's a lot of muscles in between here. It's called the biceps femoris, and then there's the semimembranosus and the semitendinosus, and then the adductor magnus and the gracilis. We're just going to simplify it into this giant oval. Basically, the back of your leg is like a bicep. This is like the biceps of the leg. These are the triceps of the leg. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What's going to happen is it's going to split off just like a bicep, and it's going to grab the side of the tibia, and we're going to get a little hollow here. And this side here, that's the part of the quad muscles. More specifically, it's the vastus lateralis. If you hear anything in anatomy that's lateralis, or they say lateralis or lateral, it just means outside. It can be, it connects to the outside, or it It could be about the movement, meaning it goes like if you think about lateral raise, it means raising your arm, or raise your arm laterally means raise your arms away from your body.
Is this more Latin stuff?
Yeah, it's just more Latin stuff.
Nice.
Someone has to name it like that, right? If I was the guy who named it, it would just be muscle 1, muscle 2, butt muscle.
all of them are numbers except for the butt muscle, which is just butt muscle.
Yeah, it's a butt, right? It's a muscle. This is arm
Yeah,
muscle
perfect.
1, arm muscle 2.
Yeah.
But apparently, yeah, they all have a reasoning behind it. Like they usually describe where they are and what they do.
Sounds like a real utilitarian kind of language. I like it.
Yeah. In high school, we had to learn a little bit of Latin roots.
Man, that would have been cool.
And so, like anything with ped, they tell us, it has to do with the feet. Like, oh, okay. Quadruped. So you learn
Podiatry.
Yeah, all that stuff. You're like, okay.
You say you learned the numbers?
Yeah, numbers, like bi, tri, quad.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you combine it with, if they say biped, it means 2 feet.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, I'm like miles behind right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it all makes sense. It's all right there. Just didn't realize.
Yeah, it's all right there. Like you said, once you learn the meaning, you're like, oh, that's why they call it that. Before that, it just sounds like an alien language to you. Like, why the hell is this thing called extensor carpi radialis longus? Like, why is it that long? Well, because it's an extensor. It goes to your carpal muscles. It helps with radial movements, and it's the long one.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the dot to dot for words.
Yeah, yes.
It's great. I love it. I should be learning Latin. It just seems like it'd be so easy.
I hope so. I mean, I don't know. Even if you do know, it's like sometimes it's just like levator labii something. Like I still don't know that full name, but
Yeah.
it means razor of the upper lip.
Yeah. I think I remember you talking about that last time.
Yeah, it's like, what the hell, dude? Can you just call it? But then you think, well, we need to give it some kind of name or a way of organizing it. We can't just say the muscle that raises your lip.
Yeah.
And the muscle that helps you blink, the muscle that makes you look surprised.
I mean, there probably are literally those descriptions just in Latin, right? Like the muscle that raises your lip. That's probably just a Latin word for the muscle that raises your lip.
Yeah, without them actually saying that, because I think Chinese is like that. Like they literally just it just tells you what the muscle does. There you go, lip raiser.
Yeah,
Sounds
nice.
like an insult when you're a kid.
Yeah.
Like,
Wait,
shut
what?
up.
Isn't the Chinese word for like for penguin like business bird or something like that? Like it has to do with the fact that it looks like it's best dressed up in a business suit.
I don't know. That would be awesome.
I think I remember hearing that, but I probably should do my research before I say it out loud. Hey.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm gonna ask her, but I think that'd be awesome.
Let me know because I want to know if I'm right.
Yeah. There's a Chinese slang term that nobody out of mainland China, I think, knows. It's basically like how Americans say, "Oh, that's dope," or "That's sick," or something like that. They say "newbie,"
Niobe.
or it sounds like "newbie."
Yeah, what's it mean?
It means cow pussy.
Oh no. We've got someone in class saying that it means you are amazing.
Are they Chinese? I think they know. Because when I first
Screwing
heard
with us,
that,
man. You guys will screwing with us.
no, because when I first heard that, I was like, how is that? But then I thought about the English language and I thought, yeah, okay, that makes sense. You can say whatever you want.
Yeah.
We say like, oh, that's sick, and it's what? That doesn't really make sense. I guess, oh, that's because, Americans, I'm sure you guys say, oh, that's stupid. That can also mean it's good.
Really?
Yeah, they're like, oh man, that's so stupid.
Although I guess we do that with shit, don't we? Because we can say something shit, which means it's bad, but then if it's the shit, that
That's the
usually means
shit.
it's really cool.
Yeah, so I thought, oh, okay, I guess that makes sense. Nyobi, that's the shit. Same shit.
Man, the more you hear about languages, the less they make sense. We should all go back to Latin.
I think we should all just go back to grunting. Easy,
Yeah.
universal language, just grunt and point, which is pretty much what I do, how I live my daily life in China when I don't know words. I just point. So in between this biceps muscle, we have this hollow, and inside the hollow, we have our calf muscles. It looks kind of like a fish again. It just comes from it inserts in between, comes all the way down, and then attaches to your heel. If we snap this portion of the heel, we can't walk.
The
I've
lower
heard
bit.
so many. Yeah, it's your Achilles tendon.
Oh, right.
I've
Yeah,
heard
of course.
Yeah, I've heard so many stories about like someone playing basketball or something, and then this snaps, and then it's just like I don't know if I remember I told you the bicep story, where
Yeah.
the tendon snaps, and then the calf muscles will kind of go up into the leg, so it looks like it's shorter, and then they have to go in and pull it down.
Oh, that would suck so bad, man. Oh. And then like refixing it, you'd be stretching it out more, so it'd be much shorter, a little bit shorter, and it'd probably be weaker as well, wouldn't it?
I don't know. I don't know. I just knock on wood. It never happens to any of us.
Yeah, that's right. Take care of your legs, kids. Wear some really decent shoes. That's what you need.
Well, there's that. Oh, this is kind of a cool thing. A buddy, like my friend, who did physical therapy or teaches physical, not teaches, he does physical therapy, I guess, is in physical therapy. He was talking about how this is an interesting fact that the fat pad in between our knees, they go away over time. You have no choice. They just go away. But he said that a lot of people who work out their legs regularly, and he said he's not talking like, oh, they do like monster squats and tons of deadlifts. I mean, just like people who walk a lot or bike or they're just active with their legs. This is when they get older, because their legs are strong. They said if the most of the fat pad erodes away, the muscles are strong, so the muscles will compensate, and they
cool.
usually don't have knee problems.
Man, the more you hear from science, the more it sounds like you need to eat well and take care of your body. It's crazy.
I think it's just kind of it's just a general idea, good idea to do that.
Yeah. It's just funny because like the more science progresses, the more you realize that like the oldies kind of already had it right without learning it as science.
Yeah, except for things like you should take radium for
Yeah.
or like put cocaine in well, they used, I don't know if it's true, but they said Coca-Cola used to have cocaine in it,
Yeah, I remember hearing that as well.
and using cocaine as a anesthetic, like for what's it called, for the dentist, like when you get your tooth.
Oh, dang.
They just straight up give you cocaine.
Man, the dentist probably used to be way more popular.
Back then, yeah.
Yeah, no one wants to go nowadays. I reckon if they brought that back in, yeah, the dentist would get way more business.
Yeah. So anyway, so yeah, just take care of your legs. You'll get you want to protect that fat pad.
Yeah, and so it's just regular, like keeping active by like walking and running and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, just walking in general, and standing, and just basic normal human stuff. I think that isn't a problem. It shouldn't be a problem.
Good stuff. All right, guys, you hear that?
Yeah.
Gotta keep walking.
I hate hearing like from I like listening to the arguments because I'm like like reading a lot about history and how hardcore people used were like the stuff they did, and then we're reduced down to someone who is obese and then saying that complaining about like privilege, and they say something like I could walk up and down stairs, I can walk a block, and you're like, that's not something that you should be proud of. That's something you should just it's like um you should just be able to do that.
Yeah. That's kind of a given. That's like base level.
Yeah, it's like base level. Like I walked downstairs and got my mail.
Yeah.
I can do that. I can do that. You're privileged because it's easy for you. No, it's not easy for me. It's something that you should be able to do. I mean, I could bend over and pick up if I drop a pen, I could pick it up. It's not a thing. It's not an accomplishment. It's just something I do. I don't need praise for it. Or if I go up to people and say, "Hey, I dropped my pen," and I could pick it up, they'll think something's wrong with me.
Yeah.
So anyway, when it comes to anatomy, and like I was talking about, it's not really understanding anatomy that can make us do a good drawing. It's understanding form, how to use form concepts. So when we draw a knee, the main concept that we generally use, especially if the knee is locked out, is the idea of stacking. There's the upper leg, and there's the lower leg, the shin bone. Here's that Coke can. So we draw the kneecap. Yeah, we'll do the Ninja Turtle. Yeah, we'll do the Ninja Turtle. Don't worry. Underneath the fat pad, we have an oval, right? So we just stack an oval, and then we have the nose of the tibia. Actually, we'll do it a couple different ways, and then we have the side of the tibia, and then we're gonna get some overlap from the maybe skin and the muscles up top. When you draw a knee, it's basically like I said, you're just stacking a few forms. Does that make sense? I mean, that's basically your knee. I mean, it's a simple idea, right? We're just stacking. Does that make sense?
Yeah, man.
So this looks very simple, right? Basically, the better we get at painting and drawing, what happens is we just get better at hiding form ideas. That's all it is. And the anatomical choices that we make, or the details that we choose to use, are basically there to reinforce the bigger ideas and to kind of hide what we're actually doing. That it's like literally a box, or it's literally a cylinder or something. That's what anatomy is really good for. It really is like a magician who, like once you show it to someone, they're like, oh, cool. Okay, cool. That makes sense. But when they see you do it, they don't see it. Like the levitating trick. I like that one because it's just funny. It's like, oh, that guy can fly. It's really, they're wearing black shoes. And I think the bottom is also very dark, and they stand in a dark place on purpose so that when they just get on their they basically just get on their tiptoes with one foot.
I had no idea. You've ruined it for me now.
Yeah, it's come on, man.
Yeah.
People can't fly. So But when they do it, they execute it very well. So for example, we have something like this. Once we start putting some tone on it, it stops looking like that. So light's coming from the left. So let's say, all right, cool. So here is, well, let's make it more obvious. Let's put an oval here, you know, for the maybe there's fat. So there's an oval here. We're having the flesh cut over. We'll just, it's called bleeding out, where you just take a little bit of the tone from the inside and then just kind of pull it out. And we have our kneecap. Kneecaps have a little bit of their own smaller details. Little hard edge there. And when you draw the fat pad, you know, fat, we have, you know, everybody's fat pad is going to be slightly different, or it's going to give a different look. So maybe we can even offset it. In one figure drawing book, the artist says, you know, just look for the man with the beard. So, you know, it's like there's the face, there's the nose, and then this is his beard.
Love it.
As the nose of the tibia. Sorry, the tibia should be a little bit higher. Anyway, there you go. And then once you fill it in, it stops looking like what you know, like our initial form idea. So I just need something here. All right, well, there's a little bit of skin or just some kind of maybe a little halftone. I need to maybe add an overlap here for the iliotibial band. And behind that, there's a finishing off the silhouette of my leg. There's my bump, you know, for my oval. And I just fill it in, and then all of a sudden it looks a little bit more impressive. All the details and everything we're putting in, it's just like when a magician has an assistant and the assistant goes around, you know, doing all kinds of random stuff on the side. So we don't pay attention to what the magician is doing. And that's what a lot of these details are there for. It's like, don't look here. That's all it is.
It looks so
Okay.
cool, man.
So that's all we're really doing. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, cool, I drew a knee, but really all we did was, you know, just draw a few ovals. And so, yeah. Another thing to be aware of when we draw, basically another way of thinking about the knee is we can just think about it like a Ninja Turtle or a knee pad or a sumo wrestler. And this idea also, we can use it for drawing the stomach. Figure out the gesture of the leg. It works really well when the knees are locked out. So say I take a 3/4 view. So remember, always figure out the gesture of the leg. And just like yesterday, I want to draw somebody with a bony knee. And there are knee types, just so you know. Like the more knees you encounter, you'll be like, oh, cool. This person has a knee that's really bony. Like I can see the patella. And then maybe look at somebody else. They're like they have a little bit more fat content. Their leg looks a little bit smoother and you might see a half tone. Or if you look at a baby, it just looks like a bendy straw. But all right, so we figure out the front plane. And all we're going to do is draw our Ninja Turtle shell. Then we have the knee maybe poking out. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And then we can go back in and it's like, okay, well, I need to make this a little bit more impressive. This is the inside of the leg. So I know we're going to have the quads. They're uneven, so this will probably cut over. So I have this, which means I have to have the opposite on the other side, or opposing curve. There's this curve on this side. Which means there's going to be a lower curve on the other side. Does this make sense so far?
Yeah, I'm following you.
And then so now all we're going to do is look for details to kind of support this idea. So we'll use a silhouette. We have maybe fat or the muscle cutting over. We have the actual kneecap. Like I said, we're drawing somebody with a bony knee. We see the nose of the tibia. Maybe you'll see a little bit of the fat pad. There's an overlap. You start seeing the actual shape of the patella. We get a little bit more fat pad here. So we're just looking for any kind of detail underneath to reinforce that stacking idea. Maybe it's slightly offset like this. There's the kneecap. And maybe we're lucky and this person has like some loose skin. Give us a little bit extra detail to help us close off the Ninja Turtle shape. Maybe we'll see some part of the quad muscle. We see the nose of the tibia. Grouping with our tibialis anterior muscle. It's giving us the shape of our shin bone. And then we're done. And then we can add a little bit of lighting. There's some Leyendecker drawings where literally he doesn't hide this at all. He just adds like a hard highlight or something there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's really cool.
Another thing to be aware of is if you draw a bent knee, like especially when it bends like 90 degrees, Yeah, painting is it's all about knocking down, blocking in big shapes. And just under, like I said, when you guys are bored, just try to practice form ideas. Don't necessarily worry too much about the actual anatomy. The anatomy is there to help you to hide and make your form ideas look a little bit more impressive. That's been my conclusion for a very long time after studying looking at a lot of Leyendecker or people who design more interesting images like with their forms. If I look at it purely in terms of anatomy, it's really difficult to break down. But if I look at it in terms of shape and form, it's very easy. And then once I started understanding that, then their design choices kind of made sense. It's like, okay, well, they grouped the this muscle and this muscle to be one plane. They didn't actually have to draw it. I mean, there's lots of ways of playing with it. So I think that's a lot more interesting than just straight up drawing muscles. This makes it a lot more fun. But anyway, so when you draw a bent knee, when we look at our femur, there's a natural angle to it. So if you ever draw a knee that's bent, like in a side view, here's our tibia. There's this natural slant. Because there's that slant, what happens is our kneecap tends to face slightly up. Does that make sense? It's not completely vertical like this.
Yeah, nice. I've always kind of been curious about that.
Yeah, it's just because there's an angle on your what's it called? Your femur. So silhouette wise, it depends, but most likely you're going to get something like this. You'll see the quad muscle. If more specifically, it'll be the rectus femoris. You'll see the bony part of the femur at the end, and then you might get a little bump sticking out like this for the kneecap. And then you'll get the ligament. You might get a little bit of a bump for the nose of the tibia. And it'll go into the tibialis anterior. It's the fibula. You have the leg muscle. It's called the biceps femoris muscle coming in and grabbing over here. Then you have your calf muscles. Basically, they're coming from the inside. Look at this, the shape of our calves.
Damn, looking at that, like it really drives home how strong the your femur is, like carrying all that muscle on top of it, having all that force pulling on it. I guess that really like kind of demonstrates how strong it is.
Well, if we don't have kneecaps, we can't bend our legs very easily. Here, let me go grab my knees. Hold on.
What a strange sentence to hear.
Here's my knee.
Hey, nice.
All right. So if you guys check on YouTube, you'll probably see a clip of someone trying to lift two sticks with a string. And that explains why the kneecap is there. The kneecap is there for leverage. So once the kneecap is there, it's very easy to pull up the lower leg. And basically the way your kneecap works is this is just a lever system, pulley and lever system. So this is going to be your ligament. And you can see when I bend the leg like this, you see that nice angle we get? So the
Yeah.
patella faces up. That's what's going on. And this is why we have knees. Also, it's going to give us a little bit of protection right in between here for the, in between our,
Hang on, Brian, could you show that again? Because now we
Yeah.
just enlarged the thing. Yeah.
so here, let me straighten the leg out. So here's it straight. And then you see that this, how it has this angle here.
Yep. Hmm.
When I bend this down, the kneecap faces up.
Yeah.
So this is
Okay.
a 90-degree bend. It's cool having this. So I have random body parts here.
Yeah, that's really cool. Like being able to pull it and have the I guess that's the silicon band over the top. That's awesome.
Yeah, so this is why we have kneecaps. It provides a leverage. And also, the interesting thing is, you can see this on your own leg. If you ever draw a knee, like a fully bent knee, you can see it from a top view. If any of you are wearing shorts, just straighten out your leg so that your kneecap is in the middle and then bend down. When you bend down, you'll notice your knee will slightly favor the outside.
Oh yeah, I could see it through my tap pants.
Yeah. So make sure when you draw like a bent knee from the front, that you slightly angle it off to the outside, just a little bit. It looks right. So if you look at a knee from a top view, like let's say you're drawing someone sitting down and you're looking down at their bare knees, maybe they're wearing shorts. So get the overall gesture of their knee or their leg. And just make sure that we get the bump of the inside of the leg here. And then just have the knee go out just a little bit. If you're going to be drawing the kneecap. Some people, you can just smooth it over, just make sure that your curve is slightly favoring the left side. This is the left leg. Wait.
Yeah, like it's your leg on the left when you're looking down at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll write LL. So for homework this week, I want you to go back to drawing Eric, but I want you to focus on making sure that part 1 and part 2 are really worked out. So you can work on part 3, which is going to be the legs. Like, don't move on until that part is worked out. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Go Ocean. I think we can do like another homework crit. Sorry, I did it faster, a little bit faster than yesterday. So yeah, like throwing a little bit of halftone on here and then adding a little bit more tone will make it even more impressive. I know that's yeah, it's okay if it takes more than 10 minutes. Just I want you to time it so that you can start finding your pace. Like I don't like doing 2-minute drawings too much, like at least in the beginning, because especially like if you're focusing on stage 1 and stage 2, because you're just going to be drawing out of your head most of the time. So I want you to be able to find that pace. And I think, I don't know, I feel like a 10-minute is like 5 to 10 minutes is like a sweet spot for us to find our pace when we draw. it doesn't take much. So if we just quickly add a, this is called the local value. After we go over hands, we'll go into two value system. Nice. When I was at Otis, I had a weird grading system.
How so?
Yeah. It's hard because especially the my normal grading system was just if you do all the work, you can get an A. But then, art is kind of hard that way. You know what I mean? Like you can hit the numbers, but all of them could be bad. Like you can just rush and hit all the numbers, and that's bad. Then it's not fair to someone who worked really hard and hit the numbers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
So there's many factors that go into it, and at the end, I used to grade on improvement. So I would look at a lot of the work, and then I would look at week 1, and then the final week, which was 14th week, to see if the improvement.
Yeah, that's similar to what Simon's been doing. He just wants, he wanted you guys to know that he's aware that like the workload's quite a bit higher, like with this class and some of the other classes you guys are doing. So if you're stressing and you're like, I can only get like 9 or 5 or 16 or whatever, like that's all good as long as he can track that you guys are making progress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like a concept art class for the seniors, and there's 4 teachers teaching the class, we have to have a meeting, right? And we basically would have long discussions, and sometimes this is horrible. It would come down to a coin flip, or we'd have to just ask somebody who doesn't we'll ask like at the time his fiance, which one do you think is better? Because that was like the only way to judge, because so we would go through the grading, we would grade every student 3 times. First time we would look at their work and everything, and we'd give like an average. Like he goes, okay, well, we had a point system. Okay, so they hit everything. So it's like, okay, so that's a 5. And then we look at, what do you think the technical ability was? And then, is there improvement? That would come back. And then eventually it just got to a point where like, well, you gave this student a 3, right, out of 5. And you gave this student also a 3, like after our first pass. It was like, but this student clearly didn't do as well as this student. So that should be a 2 now, right? So we'd have to constantly adjust like this. And eventually it got to a point where, well, at least the other teacher, like Gabe, was like, I don't think it's fair. This, like, Jane got like a 3, and then we gave, this student a 3, but clearly Jane's is better than hers. Slightly better. I don't think they're on the same level. So we would, and eventually just got to a point where it's like, we'd ask, like, who do you think is actually better? Which one looks more complete to you? And then, that's how we would grade. I mean, unfortunately, it's really hard to grade artwork.
Yeah. I think that's why it's super awkward with like the whole uni thing, isn't it? Because like, they're like Simon's kind of jumping back and forth with Flinders, and they're getting them to like do a little bit of essay writing and all that kind of stuff. So it's really easy for the Flinders people to do the grading, and then the rest of the guys in here are trying to figure out like they usually want to see like development and progress. But then you got some students that are coming in like first year and they're like kicking ass, so they're super good at the start, so like the progress is slower and all that kind of stuff. Like it sounds like a real rough deal. I'm so glad that I'm only a TA. Like all I have to do is like answer the questions and make sure like nothing crashes. Like that's so much easier. Can't imagine having to like give like scores to everybody's work.
Yeah, but like I said, at the end of the day, it was just we just had to like make the decision, and sometimes unfortunately, it would have to be a coin flip, which was horrible.
Is that
But,
because they're like so good, or like because they're
well,
kind of
no,
mediocre?
when they're good, it's easy for us. Like there are some
Okay.
students we like we've seen their work like during crit on the crit wall and everything. So even before the class is over, the grade's already set. Like
Oh, yeah.
like there's this like there's several students like man, this student's a rock star. Clearly they deserve an A. It's very easy. Like, and then we have the students who are like, I don't know.
You got to worry about those you don't know ones. Like, are they going to be able to get a gig
Yeah.
right out? They might have to do some
Yeah.
extra study.
And then I don't know. It really is like with this kind of stuff. It really is depending on you know, like I've had instructors, I've talked to them and like, I don't know how to grade. Like there was this one student, I think she's learning disabled, like where something's wrong, like she just
Oh, yeah.
can't learn. Because yeah, I just didn't know. And then I asked the instructor, like we're talking to him and like, hey, we don't know how to grade this student because she doesn't get it. I mean, she works hard, but she just doesn't get it. And a lot of times I feel like she's just staring off into space when you're giving her a crit, and then next week she'll make the same mistake. She works really hard, but she keeps making the same mistakes over and over and over again. And I mean, it just gets frustrating, right? Especially with her. Like she says she wants to get into concept art. So we ask her, what do you want to do in concept art? And they say, I want to do like illustration type stuff. So okay. And then we show her the stuff that is illustration type stuff. She says, no, that's not what I want to do. So okay, well, what do you want to do? I want to do concept art. That was our whole conversation. That was a
Yeah.
conversation that went for an hour. I want to do concept art. And we show her, and then we asked her, show us what you think concept art is, or what you're saying you want to do. And then she shows us stuff, and it's illustration.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and then she goes, no, but that's not what I want to do. So, well, what do you want to do? I want to do concept art. We just showed us illustration. So this is not what you want to do. But anyway, this one particular instructor, just pass her. What? Just pass It's like, she's not your problem. If you don't pass her, you're going to get her again next term.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Then it's Hong's problem. Like, but that didn't feel right. And I don't know. We ended up
it's
we
tricky.
gave her
Yeah.
a passing grade. I mean, because she did do the assignments. So it was like, okay, she did all the assignments. She did this. So the other instructor was like, I think she should pass. Maybe it's not like a high passing grade, but she should pass. And like, all right, well, we passed her. But man, his whole reasoning was, just let the next guy worry about her.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, not his problem anymore.
I can't take this anymore.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. It was crazy because when I told this particular instructor, like, I don't know how to grade this one student, and he called out her name. He just said, "Is it this student?" Like,
Oh,
yeah.
damn.
And then he didn't even listen. He just passed her. That's literally the whole conversation. It's like, yeah, I don't know how to grade the student in our class and this. And is it this student? Like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
you just pass her. I don't think that's right. He's like, well, to try to help her, you can help everybody in class.
Yeah.
Like, okay. But yeah, I mean, we have that student too. Even Kevin Chen, there was a time where even he couldn't teach this one particular student, and I was shocked because he looked at me and he just shrugged.
Damn. Man, that'd be so difficult. Like, you're teaching them and they're not, like, you're able to teach everybody else. So clearly you know what you're talking about. And then there's just like a couple of people that just can't grasp the concepts. That'd be rough.
It is rough. There was an instructor, actually it's the same instructor. I talked to him. I don't know if I told you guys, he's the instructor that yelled at this one student. It was not yelled at him, but this one student was kind of a jerk. He was a first term student. He was kind of a jerk. He really was, like, even to the other students. And at one point, he looked at this one other student's homework and he told him, hey, he basically was pretty harsh on the student with the crit. And that student just started laughing, like, you messed up like this and this. And he said, what are you laughing about, dumbass? You're failing.
Yeah. Was that the same guy he was talking about the ovens? And he's just like, you can draw an oven, you don't need to photo batch it in. Was it that guy?
Oh, no, not him.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
This instructor is like, he likes to mess with you a little bit. But yeah, he told me, Brian, I think about it like Omaha Beach. He's like old school instructors. I think about like Omaha Beach, and I'm their commander. My responsibility is to try and keep as many of these guys alive as I can, try to protect them. And it's like, hey, you need to go down this road and this road, and I see a clear way to go up the beach. Okay, that's my job. Okay, and I see that clear way, and there's gonna be idiots who just run off and get shot. I don't care about them.
Man, that's some real practical thinking right there. I like that.
It's like, yeah, he's like, so that's how I think about what I teach. Like there are guys who I clearly can help, and and then there's ones that I'm just gonna tell them, hey, you're awesome. I don't want to sit here and spend a lot of time on this. So, yeah, but he's been teaching way longer than I have. So he's pretty jaded. He's been through several divorces. He talks about his ex-wife a lot. But anyway, so going back to this, when you guys do this, just make sure you spend time on stage 1 or parts 1 and part 2. If you guys don't hit 20, or if you hit 20 but all of them have good stage 1s, then that's good. Like I'd rather have that than a ton of drawings where you're you're screwing up a lot, because that's going to lead to bad habits. It's better to just draw a little bit slower and maybe get a little bit less done, at least in the beginning, because I think that's the trick to getting faster. Because the better you get at like stage 1 or stage 2, it no longer bothers you. So it's not a big deal. Like every time you see it, it's like being in an arm bar. Well, there was a fighter. His name was Kazushi Sakuraba. They call him the Gracie Killer, or the Gracie Hunter. At the time, long time ago, when Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, they thought it was unbeatable. This guy came and he beat the whole family. Like he beat everybody.
Yeah.
From Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. Yeah, it was really exciting. And one of the things that he did, or that they did in training, and it applies here, is that like drawing the head is uncomfortable. Like we get a little bit intimidated when we see it in a certain view and whatever. And so one of the things that he found out was in their dojo or their school, every student that lost to a Gracie student was armbarred. That was like the thing. They always got armbarred, and that's what made them tap, like in competition. I mean, this is like when MMA was new and everything, you can do everything. You can headbutt, you can do whatever. But that was like predominantly the thing. Like everybody from that Takada school would lose. Like the greatest guys there would all lose by armbar. So basically in their training, what they did was they forced everybody to just start in an armbar. They just got all their students in an armbar, and they just they put them in an armbar all the time until they got comfortable with it, until it's not a big deal.
Yeah. That's smart. Yeah, that's really good.
So that's kind of what we're doing when we time a drawing, and we're just always dealing with the head, neck, and shoulders, head, neck, and shoulders. Okay, head, neck, and shoulders. Because we don't want to get to a point where like you've been drawing for like 5-6 years, or like maybe a full year, and then you realize, I don't, like, I've been doing this stuff, I don't know how to draw like the head in this view, or I'm feeling really intimidated of a head in that view. You don't know how to draw a head in that view, just keep drawing it, keep going at it until it becomes like it's not a big deal, because then you can draw it. And then when you draw, you can be a lot more calm. you won't be like, oh my God, it's a foreshortened pose. I don't know what to do. It's like, okay, it's a foreshortened pose. Like I know I need to get step 1, step 2. If that part's not working, I just stay here. If I can't figure it out, then after class, I'll look at I'll do some master copies, or I'll ask somebody who knows how to do this, and then I'll figure it out. It's not a big deal. But the point is to just, you kind of have to go at it.
Yeah. So, like jump onto those the bits that really make you uncomfortable and try to master them. That's cool.
Yeah, like hands are another thing. You know, a lot of people or a lot of students, including myself, in the beginning, I was very intimidated by hands. And mainly I found out, at least for me, it was because there's 5 fingers, and I always felt like every time I draw a finger, it's like drawing a person. Like, so I'm drawing 5 people when I draw a hand. That's the kind of intimidation factor I felt. So I just kept drawing hands until that went away. And then I realized, hey, the fingers don't matter. We just need to get the overall shape of the hand, and just kind of space them. And I don't even need to get making the same connections of, when I draw a leg, I don't draw every bump, right? So when I draw a finger, I don't need to draw all the bumps. It's easier to just get the overall gesture of the finger and the overall length. I can worry about the actual little bumps later. And then then you make the next connection. Oh, if I can just get the overall finger shape to look right, so like here, there's the average shape and the average width. I can do whatever I want with it. I can turn it into a very bony finger. The kind that where you can see a little bit of the, it's like an old bony finger where you can see the wrinkles on the knuckles and all that. Or after I get the overall shape, I realize, hey, I want it to be a little more slender. I want it to be more feminine. And that's one of the things I learned. So it's like the more I kept encountering the same problem over and over again, it became not a big deal anymore, and then I can just do it because you tackle it so many times, you start developing different ways of going at it. It's like, oh well, this method doesn't work, but I know this method works, so I'll do that for this drawing.
That's sick. And I need to start getting into all those bits that make me uncomfortable and try to master them.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't, like, honestly, it's never as hard as that we think. Like, it's never as hard as we think. It's just,
yeah,
like I said, it's just an intimidation factor. If you guys can get over being intimidated about doing a bad drawing, like that, you don't care anymore. I'm not saying you're like, I don't care if I do a bad drawing, so I'll purposely do bad drawings, where it's more like you're willing to, you're okay with the drawing being wrong, because you understand that you don't know how to do this yet, right? So it's okay to make that mistake, but you need to make that mistake so that you can learn to fix it. Then you actually draw a lot more freely. It's like, I don't know how to draw hands. Okay, but I know these principles, and I can try to apply. I don't know why it's not working. And then you just learn how to fix it. It's not a big deal. It's not like we're not doing like rocket science, where if our calculations are wrong, and we send a satellite out into space, like we get one little thing wrong, it's going to collide with another satellite. There's nothing that big, writing on this. So it's like, you do a bad drawing, it's not a big deal. Just learn how to fix it.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think Mark said you can't know it's wrong until you actually go ahead and draw it. It's like, how do you know the line is in the right place? honestly, you draw it and then you look at it. Because what you see and what you imagine in your head and what comes out of what your arm does, they're different. So, you put down the mark and you're like, well, yeah, I don't really like that. And then you can see it. But you have to be okay with, oh, I'm not going to hit the exact mark on my first try. Then it's not a big deal.
Yeah, sick. All right, well, thanks, man. We'll see you next time.
All right, guys. Well, have a good night. Yeah. I'll see you
Yeah,
guys
you too.
next week.
Yeah, all right. Bye.
Bye.